Ben. If you didn't meet him yet, this is Citywide Tour Commander Ken Sorella, who's in charge of the 93 bombing at the World Trade Center. He's going to give a little speech or talk.
Just thought I'd give you a little history of the place. If you heard it already, you can walk around. Anyway, this area here was colonized in the 1600s, and it was actually the center of trade for the New World, the World Trade Center. That's how it basically got that name. It was the Dutch, and then the English took it, 1664, and all of this was wilderness. Hard to believe, but and if you saw in Central Park, you see some of that granite up through mountains and stuff. That'll come in later. But, yeah. In the 50s, this was primarily called Radio Road. You guys probably don't have radios. People had radios, they had tubes in them, we used to change them. And this is where you got all the parts and stuff. And then in the 60s, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey decided to develop plans to create what they called was the World Trade Center. Construction began in 60. They had to excavate down 70 feet before they hit that granite that you saw in Central Park. It was, I guess, prehistoric time. This was mountainous. This was a low place. So they had to go down 70 feet. And the excavated earth. Oh, by the way, where these cars are, that was a river. So the excavated earth from here was put in what they call these berms, and the land was filled in, and that's what all of that stuff is built on now. They created 23 new acres. Before this was built, they used a 38 building code in New York, which was much stronger. It was all steel columns, like the Empire State Building, the Chrysler Building, surrounded by concrete. Floors were 2 feet of concrete thick. And the new code, they just used Q decking, and it was just like a waffle metal, and they poured 2 or 3 inches of this lightweight concrete on it. You know, one of the reasons of the collapse. That's why I'm explaining. The old code, the exterior was steel skeleton. That's what held the building together. In the World Trade Center, the interior walls were load bearing. As an example, in 1945, a bomber crashed into the Empire State Building. A B-25 from 78th, 79th floor was burnt out, and that was it. Nothing else. It was repaired in 3 months for $1 million. That's the equivalent of $13 million now. So, in '93, there was a bombing here. I happened to be a commander of Manhattan South at the time. We came in, we thought it was a transformer because you couldn't see anything from outside. It was just this heavy black smoke coming out of the entrance to the parking garage. So we sent people down there, and eventually we discovered that they had parked the van on the second level right next to the wall, had 2,000 feet of anthro in it, ammonium nitrate and fuel oil, which is used to bomb. I relieved the chief of department, and I was relieved by him. I went downstairs and worked on extinguishment and victim recovery. The only extinguishment was, cars burning, and right where they parked the van, on the other side was the maintenance offices, and that's where the 6 people got killed. One woman was pregnant. It was the last day. They had a party for her, and her and a child perished. with the bombing, the tower, and there was a hotel connecting them, and all of that filled with smoke, both of the buildings. That was the biggest problem with that, was evacuating both of those towers at the time. It took hours. These guys walking up 110 floors. It was crazy. It led to a lot of different new safety procedures. Interesting thing is the terrorists that bombed it, they tried to claim the truck was stolen, and they went to get their deposit back. But ID tag and part of a VIN number was recovered. And, in the meantime, a couple of days later, they went back. And this retired police detective, he was working for National Insurance Bureau.
That was Mike Meachow
He's
from
not
Long
here
Beach,
today.
New
Yeah,
York.
Long Beach guy. He's usually with us. And that's how they caught them, trying to get their jerks, trying to get their deposit back. Probably never would have caught them otherwise. Okay. On 9/11, as we all know, 4 planes were hijacked by Islamist terrorists. 846 crashed into Tower 1 at the 94th to the 98th floor. At 0903, hit Tower 2 at the 74th to the 84th floor. They were both 110 stories. Tower 1, there was 1,300 people above. Tower 2, there was 595. The total victim was 2,749 people murdered. 343 firefighters of all ranks. 37 Port Authority police, 23 New York police. Approximately only 60% of the bodies have been identified so far. And they're still trying to do it through. Just recently I read they determined 2 people through advanced forensics now, and their families were able to give them a burial. There were only 174 actual bodies out of all of that. 87% of the people, 1,700 people, were evacuated by the brothers before the towers came down.
How many people were evacuated?
1,700, 1,700. There's usually 50,000 people in the building at that time. But that particular day, a couple of good circumstances coincided. One, it was election day, so people were coming in to work. It was also the first day of school, so I'm sure some people took off and took their children to the first day of school. And the night before was a giant Denver game that ended at 2 a.m. in the morning. So I guess the people that didn't have to be in, the bosses and that, slept in. There were also 184 people killed in the Pentagon, 44 at Shanksville. And after, I don't know how many years of wrangling, 10 years, they decided to build this monument. It was commissioned to civilians and, whatever. Rich people. They decided the pools, they're both the same size. The trees around them signify the outer walls of the building. So when you're standing at the pool, it's as if you're standing inside. It's the largest man-made waterfall, and it reflects serenity, peace, and absence, because you can't see the bottom of it. So that reflects absence. A lot of thought went into this building. The names are etched in through. That's also supposed to signify absence, instead of having the names raised. It represents a void in your life. In the South Pool are the first responders, workers, visitors and Pentagon victims. In the North Pool, people working in there, visitors, Flight 11, and the 93 bombings. There was a controversy as to how to put the names. It took a couple of years to resolve. There were some people on that board that said everybody's equal, all the names should just be put anywhere. And the respondents differed with that. They said there were victims and they were heroes. So we ended up winning, and all the firefighters and policemen, they were placed within their unit. Their names are all together in their units. It's called meaningful adjacencies. And then they did the same thing for like Cantor Fitzgerald. All of those people are in the same row in that. If you see a white rose, that means it's a birthday. The museum places those. See a red rose or a flag, somebody else placed that. Now with the meaningful adjacencies, we'll show you one. This Lieutenant Captain Vigiano, ex-Marine captain, right? Highly decorated Marine. He was a captain here in the rescue company. His son was in a fireman. His other son was a policeman. And they both died on 9/11. And Vigiano he spent days here looking for them, months. And what they did was, which always brings a tear to the eye, where the fireman's name ended, the police began, they put the two brothers next to each other. This is known as the survivor tree. It's a calorie pear tree. It's become a symbol of the resilience of New York and our great country. It was discovered on October 1st under some rubble by construction guys. A guy noticed that there were some new leaves coming out. So they made a big deal and took all the rubble off it and tried to save it. It was moved up to a Bronx park and it was nursed back to health. It was only up to about here. And nursed back to health. It was put here and then it was damaged again in 2010 during a hurricane. Taken up there, survived again, hence the survivor tree. The trees around the monuments, they're all white swamp oaks. The reason they picked that is because it's the only tree that's common to all three areas, Shanksville, the Pentagon, and here. And they grow up about 60 feet high and they'll form like a canopy. So eventually it'll be a canopy, it'll be protected when you go there. They mark, like I said before, the outer footprints of the pool, so when you're standing at the pool, you're actually considered inside the building. There are over 400 trees on each pool, all tagged for ID. Supposedly somewhere in Jersey, there's trees that were planted at the same time, so if they have to replace one, it would be about the same size. It's an underground water system that waters them, and there's water under the names in the pool that's heated in the winter and cooled in the summer, because people come and they put their hand in and they rub it on the etching when they visit their lost ones.